Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to look at expressions and assignment statements. Let's get started. We've got three learning goals for today. The first is that you can write arithmetic expressions in Java to solve problems. The second is that you can explain when division does and does not produce a precise answer. And finally, you need to be able to explain and use Java's compound assignment statements. When we're writing math expressions in Java, the add, subtract, multiply, divide, and parentheses work as usual how you would expect them to work, the same as they would work on your calculator. Java also provides us with the modulus operator, which is represented by the percent sign, and that does division, but it gives us the remainder after doing division. And through all of this, the order of operations is automatically followed by Java. Let's look at some example code. Here we have an int number set equal to 6, and then we have another int result that is set equal to an expression. Now Java will follow the order of operations, so it's going to start with the parentheses and add 3 to the number, and 3 plus 6 is 9. The second thing it will do is the multiplication, which is 5 times 2, and we'll get 10. And finally, it will do the minus, so 9 minus 10 will give us a result that is printed to the screen of -1. Mod can be a little bit tricky because it's not one that we see a lot in math class, but the key thing to remember is that mod does division. It just gives us the remainder rather than the quotient. So in this case, we're doing 6 mod 2. So it will divide 6 by 2, but give us the remainder, what's left over. And since 2 evenly divides 6, in this case, the remainder will be 0. For this example, we've got 2 grades and we would like to find the average. So if we take a look, we've created a variable double average, and we've made it double because we'd like the average to be precise. And of course, we know that when we find averages, oftentimes there are decimal points. And then we set average equal to an expression, grade 1 plus grade 2, that quantity divided by 2. Now, we would expect our output to be 87.5, the number that's halfway in between 85 and 90, but when we run the code, we don't get what we expect. We get a decimal, but it's only 0.0. When Java encounters a division problem, it has to decide whether or not to produce a decimal in the answer. And in general, if we do an int divided by a double, or a double divided by an int, or a double divided by a double. In other words, when we divide, as long as one of the two numbers is a double, we will get a precise decimal answer. Java will produce a double as the output. However, if the numbers we divide are both integers, Java will produce an integer answer. In other words, no decimal point. And this ends up being a common logical error. When we take two numbers that are integers and we divide them and we expect a precise decimal answer, but we end up getting a wrong answer because we're doing an int divided by int. In the case of finding the average grade, this was our problem. Grade 1 plus grade 2 is an int, and 2 is an int. So when Java does that division, it only produces an integer answer. Now, of course, we save the result in a double variable, which is why we get a 0.0, but the division itself did not produce a decimal point answer. The way to solve our imprecise division is to change either the numerator or denominator to a double. In this case, the easiest thing is to change the denominator, which was a 2, to 2.0. And when the code runs, because Java sees that one of the two numbers is a double, it does produce that precise answer. We could have also made the numerator a double by changing int grade 1 and int grade 2 to doubles. We're going to wrap up this lesson with a discussion of Java's compound assignment statements. These are basically shortcuts for expressions that we use very frequently when we're coding. For example, adding 1 to a variable is super common, and the long way is to say x equals x plus 1. But the shortcut is simply to say x plus plus. It does the exact same thing. Likewise, x minus minus subtracts from a variable. There's a few others as well. For example, suppose you wanted to add 5 to a variable. You would say x equals x plus 5, but the shortcut to that would be to say x plus equals 5. It does the same thing. And there's a similar compound assignment for subtract, multiply, and divide. Let's do a quick understanding check. I've got 3 questions on the screen. I'd like you to pause the video, think about what the answer would be, and when you're ready, unpause it and we'll go over the answers. For problem number 1, we have 3 operators. We have a minus, we have a mod, which is a type of division, and we have a multiply. Now, Java is going to evaluate multiplies and divides before subtraction, and since we have both a divide and multiply, it will do it left to right. So it will apply the mod, and 7 mod 2 is 1, because 2 goes into 7 3 times with 1 left over. 1 times 5 is 5, and then 3 minus 5 is negative 2. For number 2, when Java does 7 divided by 2, that's integer division. So while we might expect it to give us 3.5, it will actually give us 3. And finally, for number 3, our final answer is 11, and you can see the steps of the compound assignment shown on the screen. Now that you've watched this lesson, you should be able to write arithmetic expressions to solve problems, explain when division does and does not produce a precise answer, and be able to explain and use compound assignment statements.